Welcome, everybody, to another episode of our show, our DPT to CEO cash practice interview series, where over the past couple years, I have been interviewing other practice owners, just like you, just like me, across the country about their stories and what kind of got them into business and into their practices, how they're doing things now, and what they've learned along the way. And today we have with us a new special guest, Michael. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, we're about to get into all kinds of things. Michael and we met officially, I guess, like maybe a month or so ago, and connected across the Therapy Business Basics mini course, which you can find on my website.
Which now has CEUs.
Yeah, 6+ whole CEUs. So you can
Rock
check
on,
that
that's
out.
great.
Since then, we've gotten to know each other. Michael's over on the East Coast, I'm on the West Coast, and we have very different stories, but in a lot of ways they're the same. So I'm excited to, share more about you, Michael, and everything that you've gone through with our audience. So, with that, would you like to tell us your story?
Yeah. Would you like me to just begin, or do you want to cue me up somehow?
So let's kind of begin with what got you into physical therapy and what led to you starting your first practice.
All right, I'll try not to make it too long, but as any of you watching can tell, I've got gray hair. I've been around for a long time. So I may have decided to become a PT before many of you were born, and that'd be scary, but that could be the truth. Don't let me know, but I'll just assume. So anyway, I was like many of us who got into PT. I was a high school athlete who got hurt way too much, and I spent time in physical therapy in order to. The biggest event in my high school career is I dislocated my kneecap about a month before my senior football season. Football was my life back then. I was definitely going to be a defensive back in the NFL, according to my 18-year-old self, of course, right? So anyway, I dislocated my kneecap. I thought my life was over, went to PT, and literally I was in PT like 3 to 5 days a week, and they got me strong, and they got the swelling down. They did all the miracles that PTs can do, and I didn't miss a game that season. I missed a few practices and kind of leaned into it, but I had an amazing season. The team did. It was great. So I was like, wow, that's kind of cool. I like to work out. I like to not wear a suit. I like to not be in a cubicle. This might seem like a good career. And I like people and I like to talk. So that's what got me into it. I wasn't 100% committed because I ended up going to school as a pharmacy major. I do not know why. Still to this day, I'm confused on why I did that because I don't like chemistry. But then I transferred over to the exercise physiology program at the University of Rhode Island with a track to go into like the pre-PT type of program. Took a year off, worked in I called it the glass door between PT and fitness. I ran a post-rehab fitness program at a wellness center. Did that, worked closely with the PTs, and that really reinforced, okay, this is where I'm going. Applied to PT school, thankfully got in, went to UMass for my master's in PT because this was before the DPT. It was a great program, left there, and I got a job for one of the biggest healthcare companies in the world at the time. It's no longer around. I was one of 250,000 employees and wasn't overly joyous about being a number in that big team, but it was fine for what it was, but it wasn't great. So then I left that job after 2 years and went to a smaller private practice, and it just wasn't a population of patients that I was really enjoying. And at that point, I was really discouraged about my career choices. I'm like, what am I doing? I was seeing, I think our cancellation rate at this clinic was like 30% or higher. It was really high. Lots of unmotivated, really unhealthy individuals. Some of them wanted to be there. Most of them did not want to be there. So I almost left the world of PT and got offered a job for a big medical device company. And I came this close to taking the job, and then had a long conversation with my wife over a sleepless night and decided I'm gonna do my own business. Do you remember the movie Field of Dreams? Did you ever see that movie?
Mm-hmm.
So if you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
Remember that phrase? So kind of corny, but that's what I did. And I started my practice as a cash-based practice. And this is back in like 2001, 2002. And cash-based practices really weren't a thing back then. So I started as a cash-based practice going to people's homes. And I was still working part-time for the clinic that I had worked for. And then I was slowly taking hours from there and building my business. And I did it in a really professional and ethical way. The owner of the business knew what I was doing. We had a great relationship. He was okay with it. And and kind of built it, and then realized that I'm on the road a lot, traveling 25, 30 miles in between clients and not being able to really be efficient. So then I opened my first brick and mortar, and I had all my clients come to me, still cash based, which was great. We were doing well. I was supporting my family. I had my first child right at this point as well. My wife was home. My wife is also with PT. And then I realized I was turning a lot of people away that really didn't want or had the means to pay cash. And I had a friend who owned a PT and network type of practice. So I was sending him lots of people, and I helped him build his practice unknowingly. So then my wife, why don't we just go and network or do a hybrid? Again, we didn't have this terminology back then. We're like, we'll just do both. We'll see what happens. And we did. And then the floodgates opened in a good way. And, I got extremely busy. And at that point, too, I was still just all by myself. So I was a solopreneur. I was the janitor. I was the biller. I was the scheduler. I was the PT. I was the trainer. I was the dog walker. I was the babysitter. I was everything. I started building a team at that point, but I had like someone answering phones and another trainer that was working underneath me. Then when we opened up to accept insurances, then it blew up, and I started recruiting PTs and built the practice up. So I went from in my car as a solo practitioner, traveling on a cash-based basis, to building. I was about to open my fourth office. I'm really blurring through all of the
That's
20 years
okay.
of owning
Hit
the
us with the
business.
highlights.
Yeah. So after 20 years, I was about to open my fourth practice, and so it would be four practices in two states between Massachusetts and Rhode Island. And there were some reasons, life and many reasons, some of them emotional, some of them professional, some of them mental, that I think it was a time for me to unload the practice. And it was a good time to sell at that point. So economically, it worked out for me, which was nice. Financially, I should say, not economically. So anyway, I sold the practice, exited successfully, was with the company that bought me for a short time, and then really wanted to get out of patient care and think of other ways that I could, continue to do good things in the therapy space. So I left that practice. I probably should mention, I also have an online platform of educational and motivational content for runners that I did called Run Strong. So I kind of built that along while I was building our sports medicine practice as well. So I dedicated some time to that, and then I kind of fell into this coaching consulting role, which is what I'm doing now, in trying to help other PTs start or grow their practices. With that, I still do a little work in the running space, and I'm writing a book right now. And that is my life in a 5.5 minute story. How did that
I
go?
feel like that was a great synopsis. That was
Oh,
so
good.
good. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. I know
There's a
there's
lot of happenings in between all those little landmarks,
yeah.
but a lot of lessons learned for sure.
Yeah, but I think, like that really helps to give us like a good picture of like all the things that you've gone through, and just like kind of like the full spectrum, I think, of what you can do like with a practice, from just being like a single person to like multi locations, and just like all possibilities that are out there. It's like we've talked about before. Super cool that you're getting into like the coaching and consulting space too, to help other people do this, and just like show people that there are other options besides corporate healthcare, and there's pros and cons to everything, but having the knowledge of your options, I think, is a really powerful thing.
Yeah, I agree. And, I don't know if it was built into the curriculum back when I was in school, but there was like, we got trained to be PTs. There was very little business training, if any, whatsoever. And then they kind of molded you to go into the system and work for a hospital or a nursing home or that type of thing. There really wasn't this motivation for entrepreneurship back then. Hopefully that's changed a little bit, but there's, corporate healthcare is for some people, hospital based is for some people, home care is for some. Like the great thing about our field is there's so many different avenues you can take to provide the value and help people and make a good living. I was under the how did a good friend of mine describe it? I'm a better captain of my own rowboat than the deckhand on someone else's yacht. So
That's a
that's
good
kind of
analogy.
right. And this was the time when I decided to start my own business, when I almost went into corporate, like medical device. And
Hmm.
this good friend of mine who I'm still friends with to this day said, he gave me that quote, and I was like, yeah, that's kind of right. So I liked being able to call the shots, make my own decisions, whether they were good or bad, and deal with the consequences of those decisions versus people telling me what to do. I
Hmm.
guess I'm not a good employee, is what I'm is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and
I think I was at one point, but I think as I get older, I just I guess that changed.
yeah, I mean, like I feel like that it makes sense, and like I think it's funny because I feel like I would have called myself like a good employee, but just like the resentment that would like build up in me, and like you have to be here like a half hour before your first patient, and you have to be here for 12
Right.
hours all day and do your documentation at home and do all these things, and just
Right.
like I could, but it's making me very upset.
Right, and it's and I agree with you 100%. You and I are playing on the same team there, and what really, I think, was the straw that broke the camel's back for me, and when I was working for this practice and, we were doing paper charts back then. We didn't have efficient EMRs and never mind all the AI and, stuff that's coming out,
Yeah.
which is amazing. So, like, I would be there late every day doing paperwork, and I never asked permission to stay late, and obviously I didn't get paid for that. And I remember one day that my last patient, which was a 1 hour evaluation, canceled. Now all my paperwork was done. I was like, oh, I can just get home a little bit early to see my newborn child.
Yeah.
And on my drive home, I got a call from the practice manager asking me where I was and why I did not ask permission to leave. So I was
Oh
like,
my gosh.
yeah, I'm like, that doesn't feel very good. Like, and
No.
this clinic actually had what are those called, time cards? Like,
Hmm.
you put in the machine, like back in the
Yeah.
old ages, like chunk, you would have to clock in and clock out.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I can't do this, and I will never do this to another human. And that's when, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the thing with business is you're kind of never clocked out, but like you get to choose like when you want to be like on and off,
Right.
and that's a whole thing too. Like all of that comes with being the business owner. But
And it's a
one thing,
lot.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
One thing that I wanted to ask you, like with regards to your story and just kind of like comparing to the work that you've done with other therapists more recently, because I think that there are a lot of people in this audience who are just getting started or they're within like the first 2 years of opening their practice. What fears or like mindsets do you remember having when you first started your practice that were like the biggest like mindset things that you had to overcome? And like, what do you see with other therapists that you're working with?
Well, there's definitely fear. There's no lack of that, right? And I see
Yeah.
that now, even with some of the older, new to owning their own practices. There's just the fear of the unknown. For me, I turned 30, had my first child, and totally went on my own to support my family with this business, all in 1 month, the month of May of 2003.
Hmm.
And that was, I remember telling my wife, if I don't grow up now, it ain't never gonna happen. Like, I've got to make this work. And I think so. I felt that pressure to support the family, and I had the
Hmm.
fear of, will I be able to do this?
Hmm.
Because the one advantage of being an employee is you get a paycheck. It's a consistent paycheck. Yes, you'll get some bonus structure, maybe you get a little more. You've got your job, you've got your benefits, and all of a sudden, all of that is on this guy. And so the fear of not being able to provide for the family was there. And to be honest, that was there very briefly. And I think that fear is what keeps a lot of people from doing their own thing, not just in PT
Yeah.
world, but entrepreneurs in general. I think the people who have that entrepreneurial mindset aren't afraid of a little fear, and they can kind of feed off of that. I think if once you realize it's not that hard and it's not that scary, depending,
Yeah.
not for everyone, and you get over that fear, there's always good things on the other side of that fear and anxiety that you're feeling. So that's kind of what I remember, and I can actually feel it in this area of my chest and stomach just thinking about it.
Yeah.
It's very guttural, for lack of a better way to describe it.
Yeah, it's like it's a pretty like intense feeling, I guess, to feel like your back is kind of up against the wall and put up or shut up. Like you have to do something and
Right.
make decisions. And I think that being decisive is really important to being successful as a business owner, even if not every decision that you make is the right one. You just have to kind of choose something and go.
You don't make mistakes, do you, Morgan?
Never. Never
I, ne-
once in my life.
I've never made one bad decision in my 25 years of doing this. Man, there was so many wrong decisions, but that's how we learn, right? That's how we grow.
Yeah.
There's really no, I know there's all different quotes about mistakes and things, but there's really no, as long as you learn from the decision, you learn from the mistake, it's really not a negative thing. You learn more from these. I used to say you learn the most from your hardest clients. You learn the most from your biggest mistakes. And like, if you learn something from it, it's only going to make you stronger and allow you to grow, and better things come on the other side of that as well.
Yeah, and I think like there's just like whether it's, I mean, it's definitely a human thing, or if it's like PT specific or somewhere in the middle, but like we put so much pressure on ourselves to make every decision like exactly correct, exactly by the rules, exactly by the laws. I'm not
Right?
missing anything at all. I think it's related to like trauma that I have from doing practicals in school where like everything had to be like 100% correct all the time.
Right.
But yeah, we put all this pressure and like it's not, there really isn't that much pressure like in
No.
reality.
School and life are like an opposites. Like you learn and then you take tests in school, but life is the test. Like when you're doing these things and you're going to fail. And yeah, I think maybe it is. I don't think it's specific to PTs, but I think people get into PT have a certain personality trait, a certain mindset. We want to help people, we want to do good, and then the fear of Medicare audits make us, oh, 8 minutes. Oh no, got to do this, got to do this,
Yeah.
and we're like, got to follow the path or follow the regulations, which is what I really did not like about. We can get into that right away. Like what I didn't like
Yeah.
about what I don't like about our profession is
Yeah.
how
Tell us.
regulated. Yeah, just how regulated it is. And I think some of the best therapists I've ever met are more artists than scientists. There's a lot of intuition in what we do. There's a lot of art to what we do, but there's no ICD-10 codes for some of the things we do and say. And I think it takes the creativity out of our profession. And I think like the cash-based practice, where you're not having to do things a certain way and check certain boxes and follow guidelines. I think amazing outcomes can happen when a good artistic minded therapist is allowed to get creative and do what they need to do for the patient, obviously in a safe and scientific way. But I just think it's too much accountant like rigid thinking regulation that takes the fun out of it a little bit.
Yeah.
you know and what we do is fun, and you can make it fun, but you need to have a different mindset. You don't necessarily have to go cash based to have it fun. No, we had a hybrid practice, and we attracted really fun, healthy, active clientele who really wanted to be there. So like it was high fives, fist bumps, and hugs with everyone. There was like good music playing in the background. We weren't in a stuffy office. There were no lab coats, and we had fun. So we made it fun, and I think we kind of overcame the negativity of that regulation and restriction, and feel like the weighing down of the insurances. I'm not just going to sit here and bash insurances because they do pay a lot of us money for what we do, but
Yeah.
I
I think
don't
that's
want to.
fair.
You're right. Good. Yeah, I don't want to. I don't want
Yeah.
to be all anti-insurance because they provided a lot of revenue for my business over the years, and without them, who knows what my business would have been like. Just think in general, we could be a little more allowed, a little more creativity space as therapists.
Sure, absolutely. Like I know that for me has always been like the most fun part of like working with clients. Like I see a lot of athletes in the gym is just like thinking creatively about what can we do in our session so that like all of our like treatments and exercises and everything are very sports specific and specific to like what the athlete wants to do, rather than making my treatment whatever somebody else was telling me needs to be in my treatment and everything,
Hmm.
which is a whole other like fun aspect. But yeah, I mean,
Like,
like, and that's what makes all the sessions fun is doing things with patients and like treating the way that you want to treat. And another question that I had for you, because I know this is like really big question for a lot of people who are getting into practice on their own, is related to finding clients. I know like you mentioned like with your clinic, you guys always like attracted really fun, motivated clients. How do you do that, Michael?
it's a great question, Morgan. I happened to stumble upon the running world early on when I started my practice. I had started doing triathlons at that time. My wife was a really intense triathlete. She was a collegiate track runner as well. And we just, in our community, running triathlons, we just started getting into that. And then I worked with a collegiate runner who worked at a local running store and did a good job with them. And he's like, hey, I got someone think I want to refer to you. Just happened to be a future Olympian for Ireland. So I worked with this person. It went really well. Hey, I got someone I want to refer to you. Now he referred me a two-time Olympian from Ireland. They just happened to be in this area. So it just built this momentum in the running world. And thankfully I was successful. I loved lower extremity biomechanics. I loved the foot and ankle and the hip. Like that was probably led me to being successful in that world. But at the point moving forward was aimed around that avatar of the runner, not necessarily the Olympic bound runners, which fortunately, I was able to treat about 15 Olympic runners over my career, which was amazing, and some of the fastest people on earth. But that was like 2% of my business.
Hmm.
So everything I did was aimed at just grabbing the age group, or the marathoner who's raising money for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, or people barely trying to get to their Boston qualifiers, and everything in between from high school to, I had an 88-year-old runner who was still doing half marathons. It was awesome. So, and I did that by collaborating with running stores and offering free workshops at running stores, hosting events at our clinic. So everything I do between the equipment I brought in, the collaborations that I had, the community events that we did was revolved around. It started in the running world. So that was our niche. Literally, our practice was a practice that the runner built. And I know some people get nervous about niching down. And we didn't just see runners, but because we were so runner focused, and runners tend to be, pretty motivated, pretty type A, pretty stubborn, but in a good way. Like they just
Mhm.
want to run and get better.
Yeah.
So with that, and they're talking to their friends, and we got plenty of non-runners, but because of that foundation that we built with that niche, I believe we started attracting. We did a lot of work with CrossFitters. I know that's your world.
Yeah.
When the CrossFit gym started opening in Rhode Island, we were getting there, and we would go to some of the CrossFit events and do injury screens on people, but we just started getting into the active world. So one of the taglines we had on some of our t-shirts, now that changed over the years, was keeping active people active, keeping healthy people healthy, because that's what we were doing. Then we kind of built in the triathlon world, the running world, and it was just like we never sent fruit baskets to doctors' offices or went to the doctor to just refer to a doctor to refer us all their patients. What ended up happening is through the events and the networks that we were creating on the patient level and the ground level, they
Mhm.
would go back to their doctors, or we would refer them to an orthopedic. They would
Mhm.
find out about us and what we were doing through the patient. And it was great. So then and one thing I believe in, any of you who are out there listening who are going to develop relationships with doctors, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. Because if I was really reliant on one orthopod to send us all of his patients, or even just all of his runners, if he picks up and leaves and goes to another state, then a big part of my business is gone. So I used to say, we don't get 1,000 patients from one doctor, we get one patient from 1,000 doctors, which worked for us because
Mhm.
it was really diverse. Like when you invest your money, you want to have diversity, right? So
Yeah.
so it was really diverse for us, but it was all built around started with the runner, and there's these active, really health forward, fitness minded patients. And
Mhm.
that's what we built. And I tell you, I don't know if I would have survived in healthcare if I didn't have literally the best patients in the world. And I had staff members come and say the same thing when they started working for us. And some people came to ask for jobs because they knew about the patient clientele we were seeing. Because they didn't
Mhm.
want to see people that had lawyers and workers' comp claims and, what fills a lot of people's schedules. Did I answer your question in there? Because I went off on a
Yeah.
little bit of a tangent. All right.
Yeah.
Well, so on that note, one thing I think, when you niche down, again, don't be afraid to niche down, because there's these like runner, like for us, we had runner adjacent people on the outside of that
Mhm.
runner's niche that came in, and it helped just our overall practice, our overall energy. But also when you're dealing with really healthy, active, motivated clients, I would bet a lot of money that we had probably the lowest cancellation rate at least out of any other clinic that I know personally. If
Yeah.
we were above 4%, that was a bad month for us. So it was very, very low. And I can't say it's all because of me as the business owner, or specifically my therapist, because they're all amazing therapists. I think there's a little bit of all that. It's because we
Mhm.
had amazing patients. So and a lot of when I'm talking to practice owners, I really try to focus on, like, who do you want to work with? You got to pour 130% of your passion and your energy into attracting those people, and then you're going to have a practice filled with the people you want to work with. You're going to have job satisfaction, your team's going to have job satisfaction, the patients are going to get better, they're going to feel that energy. It's just a win-win-win for everyone if you do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think I mean there's so much to like go into with all of that. Like niching down can be a scary thing because, like we're all trained to be able to help anybody. And like in our like heart of hearts, like we want to be able to help
Right.
everybody. Because we all care, especially as like a solo practice owner, you can't help everybody because you're only one person, so it definitely is a benefit to niche down in that way. But when you pick like a niche and you pick a target market and go all into it, especially if it's something that like you yourself are genuinely interested in, just all of that like passion and energy really comes across. It delivers a really good patient experience to everybody that you're working with. And then all the adjacent folks that you
Right.
mentioned, they're going to come to see you anyways, even if they aren't like in your niche, because they like the vibe and they've heard good
Right.
things.
Exactly.
And like by keeping like your own like energy really high and positive, you can work with whoever you want. And like what I always tell people is like when it comes to picking a niche, like your niche is just for your marketing. It's not your caseload. You can work with whoever you want, as long as the vibes are good, because you can
Right.
also say no. You don't have to work with everybody, which is another
Right.
important thing too.
Right, and on that note, saying no is a really good skill to have, right?
Yeah.
So I know, and this happened countless times over the years where I'm working with a client and they would say, my mother just had a stroke. I would love for you to see her. And I'd be like, I am so appreciative of your confidence in me,
Yeah.
and I want your mother to get better. So she's not going to see me because I don't do neuro stroke rehab. I said,
Yeah.
I've got a referral for that. Like I knew where my lane was and I stood in it. And sometimes I felt like, wow, I'm treating people that maybe really don't need me as much as other people. But I get over that, like, because they do. Like there's reasons why active people are active and they need to do that for mental, emotional, physical health and well-being. And I was helping those people do that. But
Mhm.
having the resources outside and be able to refer the people out that weren't a fit for me personally, for our practice or our skill set, there's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with that. And then I'm also saying no for anyone listening who does accept insurances. We said no to poor paying contracts. So we weren't taking every insurance that would pay us $29 for a visit. We had a
Mhm.
benchmark of a dollar amount because I knew the metrics in my business and I knew what every 30 and 60-minute slot was worth in my practice. If someone was going to pay me less than that, I wouldn't sign the contract. So we did have to refer people out because we didn't accept a lot of the insurances. But that's
Mhm.
okay because there was plenty of therapists, good practices that I knew in the area that I could refer people to, but allowed us to keep our energy and the business flowing in a more comfortable way. So
Yeah.
saying no is not a bad
Yeah. And it's totally okay to say no. And it does take practice. It takes a lot of
thing.
practice. I guess like how have you like learned to say no to like other things that come up for you and your business that don't really align with what you want to do?
Well, just, I mean, on a real basic level, like people come in to sell different pieces of equipment or certain tools that we didn't need for our practice. We would say no to those things, but I don't think that's where you're getting at. Saying no to, I've interviewed a lot of people over the years, and I've
Mhm.
interviewed some really good therapists that I did not offer jobs to. And it wasn't because they were not amazing people or amazing therapists, it's because their passion and their skill set did not align with ours. And it was always a good conversation, but still saying no to those people is never a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
But when I explained it and explained why I think it would be best that they looked at another practice, that maybe, if someone came in and they had a specialty in peds or hands, we didn't
Mhm.
do hands, we wouldn't really do peds. By pure definition, we had younger kids, but we didn't do pediatric
Yeah.
PT. And if that was their passion and that was their niche, although I was honored that they came and wanted a job with us, I would say no.
Yeah, yeah. I think that makes sense, like figuring out whether somebody or like a certain opportunity is going to be like truly be a good fit, and making a decision based on that and like what's going to be best for like you and your business, but also best for them long term,
Right.
like you wouldn't want to like I guess like misserve them or underserve them by inviting them into the practice, but it's not really a good fit.
100%. No, 100%. And nothing in the long run, nothing positive would come out of that. There would be some sort of negative energy surrounded by that decision, even though it was two yeses with me and the therapist. Yeah, you've got to know, which kind of goes into team building. Like you got to know who you want on your
Yeah.
team, right? And building a good team is hard. And I made the mistake many times of hiring someone for their resume and then
Mhm.
realizing that the personality, their energy, their values didn't fit, but they had an amazing resume. And then I learned like you can teach skills, you can't teach personality and values. So there's more to hiring than, where you went to school and where did you do your internships and where did you work,
Yeah.
and especially in a field like ours where it's so personal, it's so high touch. Saying no to the perfect resumes was hard sometimes, but you have to do it. It's another no you have to learn how to say and when you run a business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like that maybe is like a good segue too into like leadership stuff, which I know it is something that you've been like studying a lot about for a while, right?
Yeah. So as soon as I started the business and realized it wasn't all about me,
Uh-huh.
I'll be totally transparent. When I was starting the business and I started working with these Olympic runners, and business was going well, I was making money, I was becoming the man in the area to see. Yeah,
Yeah.
it felt good, and This is my business. Like, and then I realized I can't see every patient. I can't do everything. I'm getting really tired. I need to build a team. And then I totally had a mindset shift and more about the practice and the mission of the practice. And it's not about Michael. And over the years, I slowly started to step back and bring on more leadership roles. So obviously, when I opened another office, I would have a manager. So when I sold, we had a practice manager at every office. And through weekly meetings with them, helping mentor them to become good leaders and kind of imparting the stuff that I've learned, self-educated through, I can't tell you if I could show you my bookshelf. It's one self-help leadership book after
Yeah.
the next in entrepreneurship. We probably share a similar library, but also I took part in the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program. I don't know if you know about that, or did it have it where you are out west?
I'm not sure. I know about it from the last time we talked, though.
Yeah, something to look into. It was an amazing experience. It was for anyone listening. Goldman Sachs took on this mission to train 10,000 small business owners in our country. You apply for it. It's basically a scholarship because you get people who have MBAs are not going to like me saying this, but it's almost like a mini MBA. It's all about business. It's all about growing you as a leader, growing you in your business, learning your metrics, learning communication skills, learning negotiation skills. One of the top experiences I had, besides hiring my own consultant when I first started the business as well. So I had a
Mhm.
business coach and consultant who helped me get out of the it's not about Mike, right?
Yeah.
It's about your team. And then going through that experience and then all the self education I did in the books I've read and how to become a better leader and build a team and build confidence in people. It took a long time to do that. If you don't, then I don't think you're going to have a very successful practice. You might be so success depends how you define success. Like I know there were months in my business where our metrics were great, the numbers were high, our cancellation rate was low, but I had employees who weren't happy. So was that successful? Not in my book.
Yeah.
Success to me is when the passion of our staff, myself, our staff is rising, our metrics are rising, everything's going up. But if our metrics are rising and our stress levels from the staff and their passion and their enjoyment is going down, and those two lines are going in opposite directions, that's not success for me. Even if it
Mhm.
switched. If I got a great happy team, here's my metrics going back down this way.
Yeah.
So they kind of have to flow together to be successful. So going back to that, like being a really good leader, being able to mentor your staff, give people some leadership roles if they want them, and also tie into what they're passionate about is a big part about building the team. We were built on the runner, like I said, but I had an amazing therapist who ran one of my offices who was a D1 tennis player, and she's like, what if we started some overhead athlete programs? What if we do it? Let's do it. you know
Yeah.
and she wanted to do that. We had two former gymnasts. And they're like, what if we reach out to gymnast schools? Like, can we host an event? Let's do it, right? So allowing them to take on a little project. They're passionate about it. They're kind of in control of it. They would come and tell me what it is. Again, it's not about Mike. So I was able to step back and let them do their thing, and it was great.
Yeah.
And I really hope that they enjoyed those opportunities as team members, and I'm sure they did. But it's doing things like that to keep your staff motivated and on board. And because if they're not motivated and on board, then the whole mission of the company is not going to go in the right direction.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think you bring up like a really good point about like determining what success means to you. I feel like I see, tons of advertising about like growing your practice and being successful and just in general. It's so interesting because I think a lot of the times it's implied that success is about revenue, like it's about like how much money you make. And
Right.
for some people that does mean success, but it doesn't have to be, so like it might be more important to you. Like I've worked with some people where they're just like, I just want to make some money, I don't really care how much, like $1,000 a month would be great, I just want my time back and that's it. And like to have
Right.
like the flexibility and everything, like that is my primary priority. Or like you had mentioned, like with your clinics, like, yes, of course, we want like all of our money metrics and numbers and stuff to look good, but you also want like your staff happiness levels or like satisfaction levels to be good as well. And
Right.
it's only success if both of those are going up. And I think that's something important to consider when you're getting into your own thing and like to keep reevaluating as you go.
It's extremely important. Like if you're going to be a solo practitioner, then obviously you don't have to worry too much about building a team because you are your team. But as soon as you start bringing other people in, and remember we talked about like what I was most scared about or what like my fear when I started the business. So now throw in the fact that now I've had at my peak, I think I had about 25 or 26 employees. Now I'm responsible for the livelihood of 26 human beings, and I didn't take that lightly.
Yeah.
Not only am I responsible for them to be able to make a good living and support their families, but I also wanted them to be happy at work. And
Mhm.
I put a lot of pressure on myself. And like
Mhm.
I said early on, I probably didn't consider that as much, but I think I grew as a leader, and it's extremely important. I think I found most value in like really rewarding experiences when dealing with staff members and knowing like I was there for them when they had a little bit of a hardship, or if they were feeling bad about their career, and able to like mentor and like have a good discussion with them. And it's all about being really transparent and open. So I was a big believer in that. And with my practice too, like I didn't hide numbers. Like everyone knew what we were bringing in. Everyone knew what our KPIs were, and I think it helped. At least on our practice and my team. And also, I don't think can leave a conversation like this without saying that I had the fortunate opportunity of having some amazing team members that
Mhm.
helped not only build my practice, but provide amazing care to people. And they were just great human beings, and they were fun to work with.
Mhm.
Not all of them were. So one of the things I hated about owning a business is firing people. That was probably the lowest of low points in my whole career. And unfortunately, I had to do it a few times. But that's never fun. Just
Yeah.
they're human. Like I said, I took it seriously, helping people provide, give them a living so they can provide for their family. And now I'm taking it away for some reason. I never liked that. I don't think I ever will like that. And if anyone does like that, then I think they need to go talk to someone. Because
Yeah.
that's just not a good. That's not humans shouldn't like doing that. But anyway, that's my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that makes sense, and it just kind of like, goes back to like the conversation about like saying no, or just kind of making sure that everything that is involved in your business is like aligning with your values. And sometimes certain things will align for a certain period of time, and then they won't align anymore, and
Right.
just kind of part ways, and kind of part of life, I guess.
It is, yeah. You kind of restructure, move on, learn from that experience, make it as painless as possible for both parties involved.
Yeah. And this is maybe like a little bit of a different question, but something that I'm curious about, especially because like you've spent so much time as a business owner yourself. What qualities, like if you had to name like 2 to 3 qualities, will make you a successful business owner?
I was going to say something about the word fear. It's not being fearless. It's not being controlled by the fear, and knowing that fear usually comes of unknown, and being able
Mhm.
to move forward with that. And that's in every aspect of the business, from should I hire this person? Should I fire this person? Should I open another clinic? Should I do this program? Should I even open the office? So being okay with fear and knowing that a good thing is coming on the other side is a huge quality. And then communication. I've learned that too late in life. I think when I was younger, I wish I had more communication skills. I wish they taught it to us. My wife, who's also a health coach, and she's done a lot of extensive training, and communication has taught me a lot between active listening and appreciative inquiry and all these different things. And communication that's the foundation of all human interactions. And,
Mhm.
and within the communication is being a better listener than talker. Was that 2 or 3? Will that work?
Yeah, those
Okay.
2 good ones. So kind of like learning to embrace your fears, and also good communication skills, and still being open to continuing to improve upon them.
Never stop learning too. I've learned so much from my staff, not only just in like clinical skills, like within
Mhm.
the PT realm, but just how to be a better human. you know, how
Yeah.
to handle, when a staff member comes in and just had a death in the family, or I had a staff member who had a daughter who had needed lots of surgeries, and she was in and out of the hospitals for years. I kept putting her at ease, like, you're not going to lose your job. Like she took a lot of time off. And one of the biggest compliments I got from anyone was when she said that if it wasn't for me and the way I treated her as a human and allowed her to take care of her daughter, she said any other job I would have been at, I would have lost my job.
Mhm.
Did we make as much money off of this employee as we were supposed to because of this? No. But was she a successful employee? Remember the definition of success? Yes. When she was here, she was A plus, and when she wasn't, it's because she was caring for her daughter. I've got kids. If someone's going to tell me that I'm going to lose my job because I need to be at the hospital with my daughter, mm-mm. That doesn't go very well.
Yeah.
I don't even know how I got to that story, but I'm glad I told it, because being a business owner, you don't need to be the stereotypical old cold-hearted mean business owner. Like, have a heart, man. We're all in this together. We're all human, and you gotta take care of your team, which might mean your bottom line might not be as good as it should be, but I put my head on my pillow at night and I got good night's sleeps by doing that.
And I think that's good. And like one of my last questions that I had for you, which I think this leads to very well, is obviously like taking care of your team and having a heart, like you said, is good. But like definitely as a solo business owner, how do you learn to take care of yourself instead of always prioritizing the business?
Well, for me, I am married to a physical therapist and health coach. So that your business will only be as good as you are healthy. You absolutely have to. And I'm kind of being a hypocrite, because early on in my career, I used to wear, you know, 2 hours of sleep as a badge of honor, because I was up late doing things and up early getting my workouts in. You need to prioritize yourself. I don't know if that answers the how, but I sacrificed my body and my health many times over the years for my business. Would I do it again? I think I would have taken better care of myself when I was a young PT, especially being such a manual focused PT, because
Mhm.
my hands are really beat to snot. Is that an official medical term? Beat to snot? No, it isn't. I've got a lot of instabilities in my hands because I've mobilized way too many talus bones and way too many hips and released way too many psoas muscles with my fists and fingertips. You need to take care of yourself, and you just have to make it a priority. Put it in your schedule. The return on investment in yourself will be much better than squeezing in an extra patient and missing your own workout, or staying up too late trying to create another social media ad. Like, get your rest, save your body. You only got one.
I think that's just something to remember to keep in mind. And like there are going to be points where like maybe you do kind of prioritize the business a little bit more, but in general, making sure to prioritize yourself and your own health, obviously super important because without you there is no business.
Right, and we in this profession should know better, right?
Yes.
We're preaching this to our clients, and if we're not doing it, we are hypocrites. That goes
Yeah.
super well. So practice what we preach, right?
100%. Yeah. And so I think as we are wrapping up for today, can you remind us again the way in which you are working with PTs and other healthcare providers and a little bit more about what your consulting looks like?
Sure. So right now I'm doing all one-on-one based consulting, everything from an hourly consult to I have 3, 6, and 12-month packages depending on where they are in their practice. And it's everything from, similar to your great course, by the way, we're helping just logistically going through the steps of how to legally start this practice and protect yourself and all that, to how to become a better leader, communication skills, building a team, how to run an effective meeting. So depending on where they are in their practice, that's how I'm doing it. Soon I will be creating, I think I'm going to do 3-month group, like a hybrid type of approach, where I'd like to get a cohort of like 6 or 8 practice owners together, where they'll get some one-on-one time, but also we as a group can meet on a weekly basis. I'm actually working with a coach myself right now to help for some business strategy things, and it's a
Mhm.
hybrid program that I was a little hesitant to take part in at first, but listening to other people's questions and listening to my coach other people, I've got so many of my own questions answered, and has been very valuable. So that's coming rolling out in the near future. But for right now, it's all one-on-one, and obviously there's just pre-inquiry calls to make sure that I'm a good fit for the person and they're a good fit for what I'm doing. My niche is the outpatient sports medicine world, from cash to hybrid to in-network type of practices. I've done them all. So kind of that's where I'm at, and that's what I'm offering.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, it fell into my lap through a connection of a connection, and I really enjoyed it. And the clients I'm working with so far have found great value. I had a little bit of imposter syndrome at first. Even at the age of 50, I still have imposter syndrome, and then
Mhm.
realized, wow, like each one of these gray hairs is a lesson that I've learned along the way that I need to
Yeah.
share with people. Like, if I can prevent people from making mistakes or losing a valuable employee because they weren't communicating well before they make the mistake, then I think that's how I'm going to sleep well at night now. And I truly believe, and I think I mentioned this to you when we first talked, that I think passionately led like small niche private practices, whether cash based or not, are really going to help save our profession. I think it's no secret that our profession is hurting, from mass exodus of people to burnout to just insurance regulations, diminished reimbursement. But I want to kind of help lead that team of just getting people to realize that they can do this, and what you're doing is great. Like we connected because I saw your stuff on social media. I think you're doing an amazing thing and at such a young age. So kudos to you. I think if we as coaches can get enough people to realize that you can do this, it's not that hard. And it's
Yeah.
not that scary, like, but you need a little help. Like so back in the day, I paid a consultant a lot of money to work with us for a year. And I've got that return on that investment 100 times over. Like it was the best money I ever spent. And I'm going off on a tangent again. I tend to do that. So anyway, that's what I'm doing. I love it, and I'm hoping to help a whole bunch of people create the practice of their dreams and work with the patients and clients that they really want to work with.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll start from the West Coast, you start from the East Coast, and we'll cover the entire country.
Right. Well, what's the middle of the country? What's Dakotas or
Kansas?
something? I don't know. Kansas? Is that the middle?
Yeah.
We'll meet in Kansas, and we should find the middle of the country and create like this whole weekend educational networking event. We'll talk.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Call me. We'll talk.
Between that and our monthly subscription beer thing, I think we'll be set. We've got so many ventures.
Right. Was that on? Were we recording when we talked about the? Yeah.
No, but
All
that's
right.
okay because then it'll keep it a secret until
Well,
we actually have it out.
we got something there though. We can combine those two things. I'm telling you, there's nothing wrong with an educational event surrounded by weirdly named physical therapy themed IPAs, right?
Yeah.
And see, we gotta have fun. Like this is
I
great.
know.
Like you need to have fun in your life, no matter what you're doing. And I'm
Yeah.
glad you're doing this. This was fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm so glad that we were able to make this work and so happy to have you on and share all of your gray hair stories
Plenty of
with
them.
us. Yeah, about all the things that you've learned. And last thing is just if anybody wants to reach out to you, where can they find you?
Sure. So probably the two easiest. Well, I'm on LinkedIn, Michael Silva. My website I do a lot of public speaking as well for my consulting and public speaking is michaeljsilva.com. Spelled the normal, I guess I'll spell it out. Michael, letter J, Silva, Michael Silva. And then anyone in the running world, I do still have my platform called Run Strong. The website is actually My Run Strong, where I have educational content for coaches of runners, still do some work in the running world with online video assessments and virtual sessions and things like that. So between LinkedIn, My Run Strong, and michaeljsilva.com, you should be able to find me.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you again so much for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I really enjoyed it. So thanks for doing this.
Awesome. Yeah. And, for everybody listening, if you are thinking about starting your own practice, please do it. All of us will support you. It'll be
Do it.
amazing.
Plenty
And
of support out there.
yeah. And if nothing else, it will be a tremendous learning opportunity.
Yes.
So I think that is worth it just in and of itself. And you can always reach out to Michael if you are wanting help with this journey. And you can reach out to me at any time as well at morganmeese.com. But otherwise, we will see you on the next episode.